to be able to use the benefits of those two systems, to achieve food security and combat all the problems we have. So I decided to pursue a master's in it and do my research in it, and find out how we can make it more efficient, because I'm from Nigeria. And so I'm not about to spend my time doing something that's only applicable in one part of the world. So that was my big question. How can we do this more efficiently?
What would you say is that possible size of water icing as a resource material?
Oh, wow. To be very honest, I couldn't even begin to estimate the potential size, because one thing is that it spreads.
Okay.
So the size today will not necessarily be the size tomorrow. So once the seeds are in the water, the seeds are viable for 30 years. And as a result of, the tide, people ignorantly thinking it's an ornamental that causes the spread of this weed. It's a huge opportunity in terms of looking at how we can take this menace and transform it into an economic advantage.
I think, again, in times of crisis, as a company, and especially us as an impact-focused company, the first thing you think about is how can we contribute? So we thought of it as we are an impact investor in off-grid energy in Nigeria. Okay, so how can we help in the space that we are in? And so that's how we came up with the idea of, okay, look, all of these centers that are going up, these emergency health facilities, all of them need power. Right?
Yeah.
Now, some of them, if someone puts up a huge tent, okay, it's hard to you can't put solar panels on a tent. In some cases, it doesn't fit. But in most cases, solar can actually be a huge help to make the center operational very quickly. And again, so that the people in the center can worry about healing people and getting people better and addressing the illnesses rather than worrying about diesel supply.
So OneWatt Solar leverages mobile technology to deliver tokenized digital 24/7 electricity. We call it energy decentralization and democratization of energy at about 10 cents, that is Nigerian 36 naira per kilowatt power, to eligible users. Of course, this is backed by our fintech blockchain technology platform. So OneWatt Solar is that solar fintech startup that enable peer-to-peer trading. That is solar blocks owner. So you are an electricity user, then you connect to OneWatt Solar blockchain platform. That is electricity provider in a digital asset model.
I've been very big on sustainable agriculture for a while, and then I heard of hydroponics and vertical farming, two systems, and I did a bit of research, and it just seemed like the perfect merger, to be able to use the benefits of those two systems, to achieve food security and combat all the problems we have. So I decided to pursue a master's in it and do my research in it, and find out how we can make it more efficient, because I'm from Nigeria. And so I'm not about to spend my time doing something that's only applicable in one part of the world. So that was my big question. How can we do this more efficiently?
What would you say is that possible size of water hyacinth as a resource material?
Oh, wow. To be very honest, I couldn't even begin to estimate the potential size, because one thing is that it spreads.
Okay.
So the size today will not necessarily be the size tomorrow. So once the seeds are in the waters, the seeds are viable for 30 years. And as a result of, the tide, people actually ignorantly thinking it's an ornamental plant and introducing it to other bodies causes the spread of this weed. It's a huge opportunity in terms of looking at how we can take this menace and transform it into an economic advantage.
I think again in times of crisis, as a company, and especially us as an impact focused company, the first thing you think about is how can we contribute. So we thought of it as we are an impact investor in off-grid energy in Nigeria. Okay, so how can we help in the space that we are in? And so that's how we came up with the idea of, okay, look, all of these centers that are going up, these emergency health facilities, all of them need power, right?
Yeah.
Now, some of them, if someone puts up a huge tent, okay, it's hard to you can't put solar panels on a tent. In some cases, it doesn't fit. But in most cases, solar can actually be a huge help to make the center operational very quickly. And again, so that the people in the center can worry about healing people and getting people better and addressing the illnesses rather than worrying about diesel supply.
So OneWatt Solar leverages mobile technology to deliver tokenized digital 24/7 electricity. We call it energy decentralization and democratization of energy at about 10 cents, that is Nigerian 36 naira per kilowatt power, to eligible users. Of course, this is backed by our fintech blockchain technology platform. So So OneWatt Solar leverages mobile technology to deliver tokenized digital 24/7 electricity. We call it energy decentralization and democratization of energy at about 10 cents, that is Nigerian 36 naira per kilowatt power, to eligible users. Of course, this is backed by our fintech blockchain technology platform. So OneWatt Solar is that solar fintech startup that enable peer-to-peer trading. That is solar block owner. So you are an electricity user, then you connect to OneWatt Solar blockchain platform. That is electricity provider in a digital asset model.
I've been very big on sustainable agriculture for a while. And then I heard of hydroponics and vertical farming, two systems. And I did a bit of research, and it just seemed like the perfect merger, to be able to grow, use the benefits of those two systems, to achieve food security and combat all the problems we have. So I decided to pursue a master's in it and do my research in it, and find out how we can make it more efficient, because I'm from Nigeria. And so I'm not about to spend my time doing something that's only applicable in one part of the world. So that was my big question. How can we do this more efficiently?
What would you say is that possible size of water hyacinth as a resource material?
Oh, wow. To be very honest, I couldn't even begin to estimate the potential size, because one thing is that it spreads.
Okay.
So the size today will not necessarily be the size tomorrow. So once the seeds are in the waters, the seeds are viable for 30 years. And as a result of, the tide, people actually ignorantly thinking it's an ornamental plant and introducing it to other bodies causes the spread of this weed. It's a huge opportunity in terms of looking at how we can take this menace and transform it into an economic advantage.
I think again in times of crisis, as a company, and especially us as an impact focused company, the first thing you think about is how can we contribute. So we thought of it as.
All right. Good morning, or rather, it's a very good afternoon here, and a cloudy one here from the city of Abuja, where we're holding this next episode of Green Innovation Talks with Mr. Banks. Hi, my name is Bankole Laurentaba, and you can call me Mr. Banks. So the Green Innovation Talks with me happens every Thursday, and the whole essence is to find homegrown solutions and innovations around the green economy in Nigeria. So solutions that solve climate challenges, solutions, with a business model, and also how to understand this emerging market that is currently growing in bounds within the Nigerian economy. Is this going to be an alternative economy to Nigeria? Will this be a mainstream economy, in Nigeria? How feasible is the next Nigerian economic plan around, greening the economy? My role simply is to find those within the value chain, those within the trenches, who are solving, challenges within the green economy with a business model. So today we want to talk about the paper bag industry. The paper bag industry, as we all know, has been seen as an alternative to the growing and the ever-growing plastic, plastic or polythene bag, menace. Plastics and polythene bags, as we know, has always been a problem from our drainages, and also they are non-biodegradable, and the number of production of this is mainly, due to commerce and and some form of value chain development. But we've seen what the paper bags can do. How do we improve this economy? How do we make this work? How do we build that value chain where each major stakeholder and player to ensure a more concise paper bag industry in Nigeria? How can we help them achieve this? So I've got here with me today, I've got Chidiebere Noram, who is the founder of Paper Bags by Ebbies, right? And she's here to help us understand green packaging. The first time I met Chidiebere, I met her at Lagos Business School during one of some workshop, and I was really impressed. Coincidentally, that was about the same time I just took up the role of the Nigerian Climate Innovation Center, and so you are one of the few people who welcomed me with your brilliance and your innovation, which made me see that this is actually a market that we can equally pursue just a little bit. So Chidiebere, welcome. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you very much for the introduction.
You're welcome. So we're going to just delve straight into this conversation, right? Our conversation today is solely around green packaging, but we always want to see things from the business perspective on how we can open up this economy. But just as we're starting, can you just help us understand who you are and Paper Bags by Ebbies?
Okay, so like you said, my name is Chidiebere, and I'm the co-founder of Paper Bags by Ebbies. Who am I? Well, I would say I'm somebody who is in love with nature. I started my career in tourism, tourism marketing, and then I got the award from the 2011 Million Entrepreneurship Foundation, and I decided to venture into the food business, which was my first startup. But it was while doing the food business that I had this challenge. So I was looking for packaging that was eco-friendly. So I settled for paper bags, but I was surprised that as simple as having just a paper bag, you couldn't find that in Nigerian market. Not that it wasn't available in other markets, but it just wasn't available here. And the problem at the time was, we had something similar to what we're experiencing now, which is the scarcity. And then looking at a business like mine, I couldn't just tie down money to import a whole lot from China. So I said, okay, let's make the bags ourselves. So we started making the bags, and then we were using them, and customers liked it because we were catering to corporate Lagos. So we're just serving that market. But fast forward, a lot of things happened. There was a fire incident at my catering. That's how, I sort of pivoted into the paper bag industry. So with the paper bag industry, if you look at the whole system, with plastics and all. So a lot of times I say for the paper bag industry to scale, for me, the way I see it, plastic is the competition, right? And if you look at the economics, your normal plastic bag costs what? On the average is selling for the regular shopping bags you find in the market is about 50 to 100 naira, right? If you look at the smaller ones, I think in a pack is about 300 or so for 300 pieces. Now, paper bags can compete with that price because of two major reasons. One is that Nigeria does not produce paper. Most of them are imported. The mills are moribund, right? And nobody has a paper mill that is functional that people like us can buy from. So when you now look at how you're buying in foreign exchange and you're producing locally, there's also the machines. Now, for you to cut down on production, let me give you an example. So out of our production cost, paper is about 70%, right? 70% paper. About 25% is labor, right? But abroad, if you have machines, you can churn out these things and your production, your labor cost will drop down to more than half. If you produce this paper, it would also reduce the volume, the cost appreciably. So these are some of the issues. And then when you look at the market, if you go to the regular market, for instance, let's say Nigeria has a population of 200 million. Let's just say 200 million. And every day, people buy stuff. Now I go to the market, like every day I buy stuff. So I buy regular small things, and I in a day I could buy like maybe, when, to be conservative, I buy like maybe 4 times. And each of the time that you buy, you use some kind of packaging, mostly nylon bags because it's cheaper.
Yeah, you get a bag, yeah.
So imagine, exactly, you get a bag. And I one day I did some sort of study, just watching my own behavior. So I did a study for a week. I had over 30 bags in my house, and that's just being conservative.
In
right?
1 week.
30 bags in my house. So if you look at the population of Nigeria, yes, in 1 week, then that's being conservative, because most times when you go to the market, people double the nylon, right? Sometimes you triple it because the nylons are very, very thin. So when you look at this, and this is what everybody,
almost everything that they could lay their hands on.
Exactly. If you go to the supermarket, they're even guilty. Like, I don't blame them though, because a lot of people don't like to mix stuff with, other stuff, right? But now I say just 1 bag is fine. And if I have a carry-on bag, I say, don't worry, I just carry in my bag, right? But if you look at the figures, and this is with every, so you're not looking at just people who live in the centers, like the city centers. You're also looking at people who live in the rural area, common to have these bags. So if you look at it and then you multiply it every day by the number of people who buy, that's the potential of the paper bag industry. But the challenge is that you cannot compare the pricing. I mean, if it's costing me 5 naira, 10 naira for a bag, why would I want to buy a paper bag that is 3 times more? So you see, the economics just doesn't make sense, right? But if we had the paper and then we had the machines, the cost will drop down and then everybody can afford it. Now what we're seeing is that people who are buying these paper bags are people in the urban centers and urban cities across Nigeria. The people living beyond, like say in the rural, can't afford this. So right now it's looking like things that people in the cities, for you to say you want to replace paper with plastic packaging, I mean, you would have to do a whole lot. But for me, I'd like to see a system that is secular in nature, a system where, so because even if you scale the industry, you might still also have pollution, right? Because you're churning out papers more than they can degrade. Now, papers can degrade naturally, but if you're churning out too much, it might also become a problem. So I'd like to see a system that is secular in nature, where there is some sort of, how do you say it now? A system where you have people who, okay, let me give you another example. So with paper packaging, because there is the barrier problem in terms of the material. So paper, when you use paper for food, you will need some sort of barrier. Most times people use PP. Now PP is a plastic laminate, right? And so it sort of delays the natural process of degrading, right? Or biodegrading. So in a way, you're still creating problems. Right? You're still creating problems. But there are other, but there are other laminates that are compostable. For instance, there's PLA, right? So I'd like to see a system where how people use this product as sort of like taking into consideration, right? So as the system is scaling, the people who are producing PLA, the people who are producing the paper bag, the people who own composting facilities, so there's this that takes out the waste.
Okay, so Chidebere, that was quite a very elaborate response to the first question that we asked. And so from when we were having this conversation, these were a little bit of takedowns that I that I was able to put up. All right. So in the line of your work, you have come to realize that plastic is a major competition, mainly because of price advantage for polythene bags and plastics. And I also share
the availability of raw material.
yeah, I share the same, the same school of thought with you, because again, when you look at the prices of producing over 1,000 polythene bags, is to a little of almost like 50 to 100 naira, or maybe like 1,000 naira, or something like that. Whereas if you do 1,000 paper bags, it's likely going to be different also. So I understand the circularity process that we think is going to be a very good model, right? And the non-production of paper and also unavailability of infrastructure. It's quite a plethora of problems that is not allowing the paper bag industry to scale. So in your course of work, right, if we take out that concept of price advantage that we would like to crash down for paper bags, what would be the kind of suggestions you think could scale a company like yours into production, and or possibly infrastructure development, since you have the experience in the market already?
Okay, so industry in Nigeria. I know that there are people who are in talks with some people to do that. I don't know how far they've gone in Nigeria, but in the meantime, because the paper industry will take a while to kick off in Nigeria, because not only because before the mills you have or had here closed down, they had issues with availability of pulp or the wood, right? And so it's a system that you have to build over time. I'm not sure we have protected forests in Nigeria. I'm not sure we have that. And these are systems that you build over time. In the interim, it would be nice to have some kind of collaboration with companies or countries rather that have paper. I know Germany is heavy, Finland, some of the countries, yes, Sweden. The papers that we buy come from there. We like to buy from countries like that because we know that they have better systems in terms of how these papers are made. We like to think that for us, not creating another problem, having a country that has some sort of protected forest laws, yeah. So having some sort of how do I say now, contract or relationship with countries like that but also another issue is getting products in. Although the import duties on paper, last time I checked, I think it was below 5% thereabout, but it's not always the case. The people who import paper would tell you how hard and how terrible the system is. So getting your product in, clearing it from the port, and all of that issue is a big problem. That's that. And then also automating the process. So I think the biggest thing that would help, really, really help, is to bring machines in. So when you automate the process, what it means is that you can produce a lot more in a short period of time with a lot less labor. So that way production is way cheaper. Right now, what we have is semi-automated system. And if you look at it, a lot of people say, okay, can we go? But yes, we can. Bags have a wide variety of uses, not just in the food sector, there's also in the agro sector, right? For agro exporting, there's also, it could also replace a lot of pouches. The pouches you find, plastic pouches, you could use paper pouches as well. So there's a wide range of uses for the product. But I think the two basic things are having paper itself.
Yeah.
So having a way to get paper in that is not that is not killing the producers, right?
Okay.
All right. And also having machinery. And I think the third one would be also capacity building. Yeah.
All right.
So
Okay.
capacity building for the sector. So you have a lot of people who are interested in the sector, but what I've seen is that the sector also lacks, yes, capacity in terms of.
Okay. So I mean,
Yeah. So I was saying that the sector also lacks professionals. So you find people. Yeah, yeah. I think I'm true with the. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I was saying that I think that the sector also lacks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so I was saying that the sector also lacks professionalism because you find a lot of people who are in the sector, you find or
maybe you should switch off your video.
Sort of like divided markets. You have the small scale paper bags producers. Okay. Okay. Okay, is this better?
Right, cool. Yes.
Can you hear me better?
I can hear you clearly.
Okay, so I was saying that there's also the lack of professionalism in the sector. So you find that a whole lot of people. So the market is in fragments actually. You have bigger companies who have their own production lines, but you also businesses, right? And you have also the people who are small scale and they're doing, just doing. Producing small batches that they're selling, right? And if you take out the very big companies that have the packaging professionals and have the automated machines and lines and all of that, the remaining sector is sort of lacking in terms of expertise and exposure. So I think also how do you say upgrading in terms of technical know-how and exposure to foreign markets would also help scale the sector in terms of improving the technical know-how. Because if you bring these machines in, you still need people who would service them. You need people who understand these things to be able to manage and run the sector properly.
Okay. All right. So I mean, from the points, I mean, you've given us again another clear grasp of understanding how this can work, how this industry can further develop from from the supplier side, which some of the takes that I got from there from the supplier side is that we are not producing trees, we are not producing pulp. Yes, we know we're not producing trees and we're not producing pulp. And some of the solutions that I was able to pick from your conversation, is that if we have sort of like an outgrower scheme for the production of pulp, which we know it's a long distance, growing of trees. Nobody grows trees overnight. So if we have some form of outgrower scheme that is well protected, because when you mentioned that we don't have protected forests in Nigeria, and we also know that there's a green growth wall that is equally being built, somewhere at the upper Sahara, part of Nigeria. So if we can create an outgrower scheme for pulp, you said, part of your solution is that this can equally ease, challenges from the supply side.
Yes.
And also you mentioned, trade facilitation and ease of doing business. We know, some of these countries that you've mentioned are EU countries and are equally, very heavy on, protection of forest, and equally have been able to build sort of a system where they can continue to invest for every tree that is being felled. Quite a number is being, is also being put back. What would you say, right, apart from all those different points, right? In terms of the demand side from the businesses, what would you say has been the trend that you've seen so far?
From the demand side, well, I know that there are bigger companies who are looking for alternative materials. The big companies, Nestle of this world, they're looking for alternative to the pouches that they're using currently. But also, when you're looking at things, there's also the economics. And like I said, with food application, paper has to go with some kind of laminate because you're looking at the barrier, moisture, mostly moisture. So
Yeah.
so the thing is, there is a huge opportunity in terms of their use, but I think what the problem is costs.
Okay.
Costs. I remember when we went for during the Orange Corners program,
Right.
I was approached by I think it was the MD of WAMCO, and he was interested in what we were doing.
Yeah.
But what he was particularly concerned about was the numbers that we were doing,
Okay.
right? And we don't have those numbers. If you looked at there's also the application. You look at the cement industry, for instance. I remember back in the day,
It used to be in
cement
bags,
used to come in
paper bags.
papers.
Yes.
Yes, papers. So I think that perhaps legislation on certain things. I'm not saying that government will make it easier, but I know that the reason why there was a huge jump was because of cost. So people are always looking for things that will make, now there is a huge cry for preservation of the environment, and all companies are looking to go green. But there's also the cost factor. And when you look at countries like Nigeria, where a lot of people are getting poorer,
Yeah.
cost is always going to be on the table, because companies are slashing down the quantities of product they're putting in the goods that they're producing to cut costs. So packaging cannot cost more than the product.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a wide range of application for paper packaging, but it has to be reasonable. The costs need to be reasonable. That's what I see.
All right. You done? It's okay?
No,
Is it
no,
clear for
I'm
you?
not.
Okay,
I'm not
please
done.
go ahead.
That,
Please.
yeah, and then I'm just going to say that also the attitude of people. One of the things that we also do at Paperbacks by eBiz is advocacy. To be honest with you, the reason I went into this business, besides solving the need that we had, is also because it tied my passion with something I love to do. So there's me wanting to do stuff for the environment, and Paperbacks by eBiz was a way to fund that passion, right? So what we also do at Paperbacks is work with NGOs. We gave 20% of the profits that we make to environmental causes. So we do a lot of big cleanups. And soon we're launching a project where we're trying to get communities to see the importance of having trees, especially in urban centers. So in very congested areas, we're starting with Yaba. We're doing one street at a time. We're putting up tree walls because we don't have space. I used to live in Yaba, and I also really used to wonder why we didn't have a single tree on my street. I mean, like 2 streets away, you only find trees when you go towards the Unilag end, and that was my favorite place in Yaba. Right? Yeah. So I'm always thinking, how can we make these things better? So one of the things that we're also going to be doing this year, before the end of the year, we're working with some NGOs to do that, is see if we can set up 3 walls. So I think that also awareness is very key, and having the young generation understand why the different packaging, how to properly dispose, why one is better than the other, and why they need to have a better understanding of what waste is, and how waste can, in quote, be a resource. And so those things would help.
Okay. You've given me a long list of, of notes, that I've taken down from this conversation. Okay, so let me take you back a little bit to that part of production, because again, I see an investment in infrastructure gap here.
Yeah.
You said automation of process is equally very, important. Due to availability of machineries for production, right? So can you help us understand what you mean by we run a semi-automated system in Nigeria, and what do you think are things that can improve investment opportunities to make it sort of like a fully automated system?
Okay, so in the paperback process, there is quite a number of processes.
Mm-hmm.
So let me give you an example. The bags that come with the handles, the paper twisted handles, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's a machine that makes the handles,
Mm-hmm.
but there's a production line, if you
Okay.
look at it. So there is the machine that joins the handles to the bags, and then there's one that folds the bags, and then there's the
Mm-hmm.
gluing of the bags, and then there's probably at the end of it, the printing of the bag. So what you
Yeah.
find, the most bag, so the thing is called the direct process, right? So we have that, but the finishing of the bag is done manually. So all of these things, I mean, if you had a system that would just pew, 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 you can churn out quite a number of bags in just a few hours. But you will still have like the human angle where the bags are finished manually. Um, yeah, I mean, the companies that I know within the space, that's what everybody has. So, and we've not been able to get to the level where the whole system is automated because machines cost a lot of money. You also need manpower. So if you're bringing in machines, how are you going to manage it? I mean, you would probably, because you still have to train people. You have expert trades run the machine. So look at all the costs. For businesses like ours, we can't do that now until we raise enough capital. But I think another thing that could help is government also investing in the sector as well, but not just in the machinery, because these things have to be fed. So there's the raw material side. There's also the laminates if you're making for wide use. You want to do food, so you have to look at the other properties that would help to preserve food. So the other things that will come, their handles. I mean, producing handles, paper handles can be a business on its own. We're importing handles currently, right? Because nobody makes it
Really?
as simple as that is. So there are many other small can be fit into yeah. And there's also the research angle, right? I'm very interested in research, but the problem now is packaging is a very expensive field everywhere around the world. And so people like me were self-funding. It's difficult because you're paying in dollars. It would be nice to have packaging courses in our universities and have people from companies like Nestle, people head of production units, come give practical lectures on how these things work. I think these are the things that need to drive process, because it's not just, it's the whole system.
Value
It
chain,
has to be fed. Like you just mentioned, I mean, people who went to study forestry in schools can have a job because you're managing a protected forest, right?
Yeah.
And then people, it could also be the tech people could come to study, I mean, how number of trees that needs to be planted as opposed to how many can be taken down. So these systems can also, you feed it into the people who make the paper, and then paper supply to people like us, they're called the converters. Now we convert. Now when we're converting, there are other things we need. We need laminates, we need handles. These could be supplied by other companies, right? And feed us. And then we now produce and supply, right? There could be another company that is at the end of receiving the paper waste, right? And these companies could run composting facilities where they compost these things to organic manure, which is also money as well. And not just that, but they're also taking out all of this waste and doing something useful with it. So it could be like a big value chain, create a value chain on its own that's generating billions for the country.
Yeah, I mean, I share that same conversation with you. Which part of my question, which you have answered, right, was going to rely a lot on how we can improve this value chain, which you have also included that aspect of capacity building, right? So just before I ask you the next question, I would like to ask our audience out there that if you've got a question that you'd like to ask, please go to the question and answer section. Click on that, send us your questions, and then we can share. Hopefully, Chidebere can answer. So, Chidebere, help me understand the aspect of shortage of skill sets, right? Again, you mentioned a few things around how if this sector is equally improved, it could generally create jobs on every aspect of the value chain, from the aspect of market to finance to research, to even innovation to engineering and all that part. Can you tell us how this knowledge gap is, right? How really wide is this gap? If you use your company as an example, how really what are those kind of roles that you think that should have been there that could equally improve the success, so that we can have an understanding of how wide it is that this shortage in skill sets have been?
Okay.
You like to think
Okay,
that?
so for me, I'm in research. So research is really missing. I mean, yeah. So research is, for me, I think is the first key role. Okay, so I was reading up on somebody, I think he's going to work on laminates, produce compostable laminates from starch, right? I mean, if somebody like that is skilled, I mean, help to, bring his idea to life, that would do a lot for the industry. There's also the packaging professionals, the product design, people who look at product packaging design itself, looking at how people use it, how people, and design it to work for the environment, right? Or for better. And then there are people who manage the machines, right? The operators. So the different kind of machines, if it's the paper bag machine, if it's the paper handle machine, just being able to use the machine. And the people who repair it, the mechanics who repair this machines. We know how terrible repairing of machinery is here in Nigeria. I mean, just the basic thing, your generator is faulty, and then you know how many people you have to call before you find somebody who is knowledgeable enough to fix those kind of things. What usually happens is that if you're bringing a machinery, quite expensive, it breaks down, you're probably not going to be in operation for a very long time because you're waiting for expert trades to come in and fix it, right? Then there's that. And I think also I think those are the four basic, I think, and the others are really people who help with the admin, who help with the marketing. These are regular jobs that I don't see any issues, finding people to filling that role here in Nigeria. But I think the four basic, the research, the research guys, the packaging, product designers, the technicians, and the mechanics. I think those four skills are really, really missing.
Okay. Okay. So we have a question here from Marianne Ashenyiku. So Marianne is asking that, don't you think paper bag is still not a green option for food packaging? And she goes along to say, if it's been laminated with plastic and it cannot be recycled because of its, difficultness, right, to separate the laminate from the paper, or the biological fluid or the oil that contaminates the paper. Like for you, in the line of your work, have you seen that innovation, in line with this question that Marianne needs clarity on, like around the kind of lamination within paper bags for food?
Well, that's why I mentioned, so that's why I mentioned that paper has limitation. And a lot of time for it to function, two kinds of laminates. You have the import laminates that you cannot compost. but you have also the ones that are compostable. When I say compostable, that means it breaks down, but not naturally. So it has to go in a controlled kind of system, right? And so there are laminates that are compostable. The problem here is you don't have enough professionals in the field who can understand what those things mean and have systems to produce that. And that's why I said that sometimes, or if the system is skilled, but you don't bring in professionals and you don't bring in the right knowledge or the other systems that will help take out this waste, you're only going to be compounding the issues. So, and that's why I said the system itself would flow better if there were other, businesses along the value chain that can help. So you're producing paper packaging, but there's another company that's producing compostable laminates that you can use, for food packaging in court.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have another company who runs a composting facility. One of the things that we want to start doing is having community composting, right? Just set up small stands to educate people about composting and how they can do it. We don't want to set it up as a business. As it is now, it's just something that we want to do as a social venture, right? And we're funding it from I'm not too sure how much compost costs now, but it's a lot of money. And this is what you can generate from waste if you had a composting system. Most of the people who are into food business center, when the businesses
Apologies for the mix back. So I guess we will have to close a little bit early. for this. Chidiebere is not back. Internet issues, and so am I also having about the same thing. So we apologize for the network, and it's been a very wonderful conversation so far, and we hope to see you next week at the same time, lunchtime hour with us, with Green Innovation Talks with me, Mr. Banks. So we hope to recap this conversation for you in our next edition. Thank you so much, very much, and we will see you next week. Bye-bye.